Have you ever felt lost, untethered, searching for something more? Welcome to Angelic Footprints, where the spirit meets the road on a journey to self-healing and rediscovery. I'm Dagmar, your host, psychic medium and seasoned traveler. Each week, we'll explore the world of angels and personal transformation. We're going to dive into compelling histories and captivating mythology. You're going to hear remarkable, real-life angel encounters and discover how you too can connect with the angels guiding your path. Whether it's through practical tips, meditation techniques, or stories that resonate deeply, Angelic Footprints is here to light your way. From mystical journeys to profound self-discovery, let's embark on this transformative journey together. Are you ready to find your angelic guide? Then subscribe to Angelic Footprints today and step into a world where angels walk beside you every step of the way. Angels, spirituality, healing. Let's ignite your transformation. Angels have been mentioned in ancient texts for thousands of years. They are a significant part of history in many religious or spiritual belief systems. From the earliest civilizations, we know of stories of the existence of angels. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, which is the equivalent of the Hebrew malaka, meaning messenger. Throughout history, there have been visions of angels by people like Hildegard of Bingen, Joan of Arc, William Blake, and Pierre-Jean Lamy. In today's world, technology and science are at the forefront of our minds. We are taught from an early age about the physical world. Religion doesn't have the same impact for many people as it once did. Even Hollywood has made a contribution to the angel theme in popular culture. Films like City of Angels with Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan, Michael with John Travolta, and Dogma with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Now you might be wondering, who is this show for? Well, perhaps you're feeling a little bit lost, either through loss of focus, loss of a relationship, loss of faith, or loss of identity. Perhaps you've lost your sense of self. Possibly you are looking for something but don't quite know what that something is. You know that there is more to life and you just need some inspiration to help you move forward. Through the show, you will be able to reconnect with who you are and find your inner joy. You may also find hope, inspiration, your faith, and a sense of feeling good. Who then is this show not for? Maybe you feel that you have everything you need in your life. Then again, you might not believe in angels or the spiritual world. In fact, you might not believe in anything at all. There's no afterlife. Once you're gone, you're gone. There's nothing else. That's it. And if that is the case, then this show probably isn't for you. Who is this show for? Maybe you do believe in angels, and perhaps you want to connect with others who believe that angels exist, and you want to hear people's stories. You are here because you want to connect with like-minded people. If that is you, then you are definitely in the right place. Which brings me to a long time ago. You see, the topic of angels has been one that has been dear to me for a very long time, and yet I never gave the concept of angels much thought until I had my own encounter of being saved by my guardian angel. I was in my early 20s, and it was a mild Saturday summer's evening. There was a soft breeze blowing, and it was still light outside, when my mother dropped me off to a friend's house where we were all due to meet before going out. I knocked on the door. There was no answer. I waited for a little while, but when no one came, I went to look for a telephone booth. Yes, you did hear that right, ladies and gentlemen. That was a telephone booth that I was looking for. Because, hey, this was after all the late 80s before everyone had a mobile phone. So a telephone booth it was. I headed in the direction of the nearest shops. At the end of the street, there was a divided 4-lane road. I crossed halfway and was waiting for traffic to pass before proceeding further. All clear and cross. Pang! I was thrown into the air and came catapulting down hard near the other side of the road. A car had hit me while it was travelling at about 45 miles per hour. I hadn't seen the car. Unfortunately, I hadn't realised that the first section of road that I had crossed was not yet open to traffic and that there was roadworks going on. So when I came to crossing the second section of road, I was not expecting a car to come at me. After all, I'd done my look lefts and rights. I thought I was good to go. Lucky for me, there were 2 nurses and a doctor on the scene almost immediately, as they had been passing by and stopped to help. They checked me over. No broken bones. No broken anything. Meanwhile, my father had been called and arrived to pick me up. He spoke to the driver of the car, who was astounded and in shock at what had happened. The amazing thing was that there was no damage to his car but for a small mark that could have come from the ring on my right hand. I came away with a sore body and a dint in my right leg and the knowledge that I was looked after by my angels on that day. People I knew said to me, "You should buy a lotto ticket. You are so lucky." I had no interest in lotto tickets. What was clear to me was that I had had a helping hand. My angels had stepped in to save me. What could have been a tragedy was not. I'd like to think my angels had intervened because it wasn't my time to go yet. Since then, I have had many experiences, both in my day-to-day life and in my travels. Who am I, and what makes me an authority on this topic besides the experience I've just related to you? Well, throughout my life, I've had many mystical experiences. I started in my working life in corporate, basically in customer service, admin and law. And it was when I was in my early 30s that I felt I had a calling to do something more with helping others. For the last 20 years, I've had my own business in the personal development field. Along the way, I've learned that there is so much more to this world than just the physical world that we live in. I've worked as a psychic medium, connecting with loved ones in the spirit world, running courses, and having spoken on world stages from Australia to the USA and now here in the UK. I've connected with people from all over the world and from all walks of life. I've even written a doctoral thesis on angels and archangels, the case for their existence. I hope that gives you some insight on why I am so passionate about this topic and how it can help you with your life. Come with me in future episodes where we get to explore the world of the mystical through stories of real-life encounters from myself and my guests. Come on an adventure. I will also be sharing with you techniques in how you too can connect with your angels. Along the way, I will share with you places that I have visited and that you too can see on your own journey of discovery. Real places where you may want to connect with angels. Because hey, after all, people have been leaving mementos of angels for a very long time. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share the information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. And if you really enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. In today's episode, I'd like to share with you the timeless role of angels. If we go back to a long time ago, stories of angels are prominent throughout the Bible, although the only named angels are Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer. In the Old Testament, angels acted as messengers of Yahweh, which is another name for God, and they protected important people, helped the prophets, and revealed God's word to mankind. There is also mention of archangels, cherubim, seraphim, thrones, dominions, and powers. Many cultures have depicted winged beings. The first historical records of winged beings comes from Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest religions. The oldest known artwork of an angel can be found on a 6,000-year-old pillar from Ur. This shows a winged figure pouring the water of life into a cup held by a king. There were many gods in ancient Mesopotamia, and many of these had wings and could be considered angels. While the Mesopotamian people worshipped between 300 and 1,000 gods, the winged beings mentioned are the Lamassu, depicted as protective deities, and the Queen of the Night, often referred to as both Ishtar and Inanna, or as Ereshkigal, as well as the demoness Lil-Tu, otherwise known as Lilith. In Buddhism, angels are bodhisattvas, or the enlightened ones. Islam has a vast hierarchy of malaika, otherwise known as angels, which is thought to have been inherited from Judaism and Christianity. Catholic doctrine advocates that everyone has an angel assigned to them at the time of his or her birth, and that our guardian angel can intervene with God on our behalf. During the Renaissance, artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raffaello Santi created great frescoes with angels and cherubs. The presence of angels in the lives of human beings has been recorded throughout history. Joanna Skilling, in the book The Big Book of Angels, tells the story of Joan of Arc, who was 13 years old when she began to hear heavenly voices inspiring her to save France. One of those voices belonged to Archangel Michael. Also in the same book, Joanna Skilling presents to us the life of Emanuel Swedenborg, who was born between 1688 and lived up until 1772. He was a Swedish scientist and philosopher who recorded his accounts of his visions and discussions with angels in his books. He saw angels in human form, believing that they were there to help us evolve spiritually. William Blake, who was alive between 1757 and 1827, was a British poet, painter, and engraver who recorded his conversations and visions of angels, especially those with Archangel Gabriel and the Virgin Mary. Sightings of angels are not limited to the ones I've mentioned so far. In fact, one of the most famous angel sightings occurred in August of 1914 at the Battle of Mons in France. The angel is known as the Mons Angel and was seen by countless men. The sighting occurred during World War I in France, during a battle where the German troops greatly outstripped the British forces and defeat was imminent. After the battle, soldiers described seeing angelic visions of St. George and medieval archers who helped change the circumstances of the conflict. The Germans retreated, and some stories report that several German soldiers were found with arrow wounds. Another report is from Lily Leonardi, who wrote a memoir entitled In the Shadow of a Badge, a spiritual memoir. Now, what is so significant about this report is that this is recent, because Ms. Leonardi, she is a former FBI officer who arrived first on the scene after United Airlines Flight 93 went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on 9/11. She described columns of archangels with their wings reaching to the sky that were shown to her after a blinding light and white mist cleared around the crash site. Now, there are also stories of the Thames angel, who is known as one of the most famous angels in England. This particular angel has been sighted on numerous occasions, particularly around the Jubilee Gardens. During the period of 1665 and 1666, London was infested by rats that carried the bubonic plague. The Great Fire of London swept through the city, and the Thames angel is associated with the fire that subsequently eliminated the plague that inhabited the city. Sightings of this angel have occurred during World War I and World War II and have reputably been captured many times on photographs, CCTV, video, and also seen by the naked eye. Now, here's the thing. Angels are not limited to extraordinary people. We can see that by these stories. And rather, many ordinary people have had visions and sightings of angels throughout the ages and have testified to being witnesses to these events. Moreover, the advent of the New Age movement has brought with it a resurgence in the interest of angels. Go to any New Age expo or psychic fair and you will find angel books, angel cards, angel figurines, angel feathers, you name it. We as human beings have a fascination with these magnificent beings. It never fails to amaze me that when I was completing my doctoral thesis on angels and archangels, and I put a post out on social media, the amount of people who were willing to share their stories of their experiences. You will get to hear angel stories from people as they come on the show to tell you what happened to them and how it has influenced them. There may be those of you who may be thinking that your experiences are something that people wouldn't even believe. But guess what? That is not true. Quite the opposite, in fact. I believe that the world needs to hear your story so that others can get healing and hope, so that they too may believe and that it will enrich their lives. More than ever, the stories that will come through in the ensuing podcasts are there to show you that there is more to this life than the physical world that we live in, that we have protectors, that we have guides that assist us, and that angels help us in all manner of ways, and that you too can see how your angels are helping you and giving you guidance. Now, in the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, I'd love you to please share it with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Angelic Footprints. Now, I promised you all some wonderful guests, and today we have Chantal, who is a wonderful holistic wellness and lifestyle influencer. And she's here today to share with us all her story. Let me tell you a little bit more about Chantal. She's the curator of all things great and what makes your heart sing. I tell you what, her story makes my heart sing because I know her story really well, and you're about to know it as well. She's a community builder, a busy mompreneur, consciously raising her 18-year-old son. She's an activist for Cancer Schmancer, a former president of the Santa Monica chapter of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. She's an author and gratitude advocate. Chantal, wonderful to have you here. Welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much, Dagmar. I am excited to be here. How exciting. And I am honored that you like my story, and I'm always excited to share it. My background is that my mom and I escaped out of Vietnam since I was like 9, almost 10. And that was back in 1977. And I am grateful for every moment of my life. And I'm living here in beautiful Santa Monica, California. And I am excited about my life in general. I think of my life as magical and miraculous in so many ways. And it all started with that journey, going out of our homeland.
Well, I'd love to have you share a little bit more about that story. But I mean, LA, the Santa Monica chapter of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, that's where we met. I so miss LA.
Yes, it is beautiful. It was so lovely to have met you in person. And yes, I ran the Santa Monica Holistic Chamber of Commerce for about 6 years. And I carried it through COVID because I wanted to continue with the community and have a place for people to come together and network and pivot. I'm actually working on a memoir based on my escape out of Vietnam. So I work here and I love it here.
I'd like to take you back, though, to 1977. You are, after all, on the Angelic Footprints show. So tell me a little bit about this perilous journey from leaving Vietnam and what happened during that journey, because the listeners here are wanting to know about your angel experience. Tell us about that, please.
Oh, yes. That's just one of many angels in my life, but that's definitely something that from that space on, I could not live my life without acknowledging the magic and miracles and the angels around me. My mom and I had been trying to escape out of Vietnam after the fall of Saigon back in April of 1975. So we lived 2.5 years under the communist regime. And, you didn't have control over your own lives. Things like search and seizures could happen in the middle of the night, and people can be taken away for any slight thing. And you don't get to talk about it because if you question, oh, where did Mr. So-and-so go? It could be misconstrued as treason. You're against your government. Why are you questioning us? And so my mom thought that we should find a way to garnish more freedom and also a future for myself and her. And we made many attempts to, leave Vietnam, to escape. And at the time, the government was giving a program that anyone of Chinese descent could leave the country. So the last one that got us out in 77, my mom made all these papers to say that we were Chinese, we were going back home. And it was a, very violent, turbulent time with the ocean. We were all boat people, and they just thought, that's a good time to go because security is lax. Basically, the government is saying, if you want to take your life into your own hand, go ahead, have at it. So we left November 77, and we had about 200 plus people on this tiny little boat, and they made us stay down below where, when you catch the fish. There's a movie in Hollywood called A Perfect Storm with George Clooney.
I know it well.
Okay, so you know how they throw the fish into these little square hole at the bottom of the boat? It's like where you store all the fish you caught.
Yeah.
Well, we had to stay down there so that the boat could be leveled out and not top heavy. So because if you're top heavy with the wave, you could be flipped right over. So we were all in these tight little quarters, sitting around almost on top of each other, and just to weather the storm. And, there were times I look out and I would see a wall of seawater, and you think it's going to topple over and just crush your boat. And then eventually there was a boat from, I think it was the Soviet Union at one time, and they saw us and they wanted to help us. But then we heard stories because the Soviet Union or the Russia was the big brother to Vietnam, because all under communism. And that's what we were escaping. So then we have heard stories of them pulling the boats back to Vietnam. So we then quickly put our SOS flag down, just hoping that they would leave us alone. And I remember one particular night when it was really stormy weather, they actually stayed by our side, just offering help, even though we refused it. But it made us feel secure because, there's this big boat. So just in case you're dying or, the boat crash, they will save us. Then the next day when the weather cleared up, we went on our merry way and they left because we refused the help. And eventually we got to Malaysia, being pulled out by the Coast Guard because they say we had enough refugees. We don't want any more. And again, we waited until they left and we sneaked back into Malaysia borders. And at one point when we finally saw land after, 5 nights, 6 days, we were so excited. We head toward land. And in Malaysia, the island was called, let me think if I remember, Pulau Tangga is, I think, the name. And they have coral reefs underneath, and they would start scraping the bottom of the boat. And it got to the point where the boat cracked in half and water started coming in. So everybody was dispersing in this most chaotic, it was a hard time. And my mom and I tried to stay together. It was just mom and me too. And we tried to stay together, but neither one of us swam. And at one point, a wave would come in and she yanked me out of that little fishing hole seconds before the water filled up the hole. And then we tried to get to shore, but it was really challenging because, like I said, we don't swim. So we remember hearing these men, they're strong men, including the captain. They took the anchor, and the anchor has that rope that attached to the boat. So they took the anchor toward the beach, toward the shore. And I want to say we're about 2 miles out or something but you can see land. And so you get really hopeful because after days being on the boat, we're like, oh my God, we're safe. And, but now we have to deal with surviving the crash, surviving the boat wreck. And so people who were brave enough, they would follow that rope so that they can try to make it to land and not feel lost, and have the current pull you away. Mm. My mom was trying to help me, and I was just, this tiny 9-year-old. And at one point when the waves come in, the end of the noose, the part that tied the boat, there was the loose end on the rope, and it wrapped around my neck. And my mom was like, oh, let me try to get that off of you. And then she saw the captain coming back out trying to help other people. And she begged him. She said, please help my daughter. I don't swim very well, and I don't think I can manage me and her. And can you help bring her to shore? And he said, no problem. It's okay. Go ahead. Take the anchor rope and try to follow everybody in. So my mom, whatever she could, she, tried to go. She was actually relieved because someone else more capable to take care of me. And he helped me with that. But then the owner of the boat was a Chinese man, and he had his grandmother on the boat. And the grandmother was coming from the time where they bound their legs and feet. She could barely walk,
Mm.
and she could swim. She was very frail. And so the boat owner said to the captain, "Hey, if you help to save my grandmother, I have hidden some gold on the boat and I can bring you back and I'll share and pay you in gold." And so the captain said, "All right." And he said, "Okay, little girl, here, put my arms around the rope to hang on and try to, get there." But he didn't help me to situate myself. And the rope was so big that I couldn't grab it. And then, it's waxed. So it's very slippery. I got knocked off the rope. And literally at 9 years old, I said to myself, no one's coming. I didn't even get a chance to catch that breath of air before I go under. You know how you take a deep breath and then you hold your breath underwater?
Yeah.
Didn't have that opportunity to hold my breath underwater. So at that point, I knew that I was dying, that no one was coming. That was what I was feeling. And I just kind of, saw my little life pass before me. I was sorry I didn't get to see my mom. And I just surrender. I said, I guess it's my time to go, and I'll just let the water fill up my lungs and, so be it. And then the next thing you know, this Malaysian village fisherman fished me out of the water and brought me to shore. I have no idea how much time has, passed or what had happened. All I knew is I was kind of one of the few last people. And he grabbed my ankles and he, took me upside down to, bounce me upside down to get all the water out of me. And as he was doing that, I saw my mom upside down running against, along the beach looking for me. So the moment he put me down, I ran straight to my mom and I never saw this man again.
Wow.
And that's when I knew that, he's my earth angel. It wasn't my time to go, and he was there to help save my life. And my mom had been a very prophetic woman because before the trip, I remember two things she told me. I didn't like eating fish as a child because I didn't want to pick out the bones because it's not in Vietnam, they don't fillet everything for you so nicely. And she would say to me, and I told the housekeeper, the nanny, don't buy any fish because I don't want to chew and I don't want to try to get the bones out. And she told my mom because she thought it was funny. And my mom said, you're going to eat fish at every meal for the next 30 days because you might be stuck somewhere where that's all we have to eat. And so we've been on the island for 10 months. Guess what? I learned how to eat fish. The second thing, which is so incredible, is my mom said, I'm going to get you this red long sleeve shirt to wear so that I can spot you if we get if we get separated and I can see you is easy to see. And I believe that in my heart of hearts that my red shirt is how the Malaysian fisherman, my earth angel, could have spotted me and saved me.
Wow. Well, that is an absolutely amazing, amazing story. And, having that earth angel of yours, if he wasn't there, then you might not be here today. And, you've told me before this experience has deeply influenced your life. And I think we can all see why. And it's just such an amazing story. Tell me
Well,
then, do
yeah.
you think that there's anything that you would like to share with our listeners about a message around that story or about life in general?
Well, I would say the biggest message for me is gratitude. Sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of us don't realize what we have until we lost it. And one of the things that I realized that, I used to say this story and I say, oh, I wasn't meant to be here. And my son would correct me and say, yeah, of course you're meant to be here. If you're not here, I'm not here. So of course you're here. And I realized that, we don't know in life what's going to happen. We can only do our very best to secure the best life possible. So from that experience, I know to surrender when it's time. If there was absolutely no other option, I did everything I could to stay alive. But if it wasn't meant to be, I just surrender completely and trusted that it wasn't my time. If it wasn't my time, it wasn't my time. And it wasn't my time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the gratitude, because everything else from that moment on, Dagmar, is the cherry on top. The fact that I get to be alive every single day. I do not take waking up every morning for granted.
That's the thing, isn't it? Not taking
It is.
one moment for granted. And sometimes it is these kind of experiences that
Yes.
make us take stock and make us take notice.
Yes. And my favorite thing is, to use every experience as a tool, as a benefit to your life, because, you hear these songs and things about you win some, you lose some. Well, I don't mind losing sometime because it wasn't meant to be. However, how can I capitalize and make this experience a benefit? And I feel like it taught me deep, deep gratitude. There is nothing I take for granted. That's why every single thing, you could give me a spoon and I'm like, that is so sweet because I understand the intention behind it. Being on your podcast, that you want to hear my story. And I feel like this story needs to be shared so that we can all put everything in perspective. Whatever hardships we go through, you think back and you're like, well, I'd rather have the hardship than not being here. For me, it's always about that. And I feel like it really helped me so much in my life. I had so many different struggles. I mean, look, my life didn't stop there. It wasn't enough just to be alive. I had to come to a new country. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know the customs. I didn't know anything. My mom didn't know anything. We had to start from scratch. So you can imagine there's so many challenges. Even when you do speak a language, you're traveling, you've done it where you cross continents and, you follow where life takes you. But the main thing is the gratitude. It's so easy for us to go down the spiral, spiraling down, thinking of all the horrible things that happen. Well, I'm now training. I've been training since that moment to also remember all the wonderful things that happen, the miracle, the magic, and having angels in our lives. I deeply believe that miracles are a natural occurrence, whether or not we realize or see it. So I make it my mission from that experience to keep looking for magic and miracles.
Thank you so much. I'm with you too. Having moved countries as a small child, I understand exactly where your story is coming from. It's so similar to mine in so many ways. Thank you for sharing that message. And I believe, like you, that it is a message that does need to be heard. Tell us a little bit about how our listeners can get in contact with you should they want to.
Oh, wow. I would love that. I have a website that I'm working on still, but it's called chantalyn.com. It's my first name, CHANTALYNN.com. And I share about, coaching. I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of different services, but everything I do, I used to think I'm ADD on my career choices, but really everything is under the umbrella of health and wellness. And health and wellness to me is body, mind, and spirit. So I love helping my clients to find magic and joy out of what is there right now, right here, right now. One of my favorite poets is Rumi, and he said, now is the time to know that all that you do is sacred. And I believe that if we live our life, an intentional life, and living it with sacredness and with joy and gratitude, what you focus on expands. So whatever you're enjoying in your life, take a moment and give gratitude. And I'm here to help. I'd love it if people need some little help because, sometimes it's hard. You need someone to maybe not teach you anything new, but to remind you how magical and wonderful you are. And how do you tap back into that divine source?
I think we all need a little bit of that, don't we? I mean, the world is all just a little bit crazy at the moment. So, having that little bit of connection to magic and having a reminder of how special we all are is truly a gift. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chantalyn, thank you so much for sharing your story, and hopefully, some of you, if you are interested in connecting with Chantalyn, please do get in touch with her. She's given you her details. I will put it all onto the website so that you have it for future reference as well. Thank you so much for being here, Chantalyn. It's been such a pleasure having you here. And until next time, blessings, and we will meet again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for you, Dagmar, not just for all that you do, but for who you are being. You are a blessing, and I so appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Today, I have another very special guest here in the studio with me. Her name is Aga, and Aga is an angelic priestess, holistic therapist, and coach who specializes in ancestral healing. Now, she's got over 4 years of working alongside fellow cycle breakers, reversing negative patterns. Aga, in her own way, is a true unicorn in the field of horses because she wants to break the chains of family secrets with absolutely no shame. I'm so looking forward to hearing what Aga has to tell us today because she has recovered from a narcissistic relationship from an abusive ex-husband, which ultimately left her homeless. And she herself has been able to rediscover her superpower and purpose. Now, don't we all want to hear from Aga and her story? Aga, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your belief in angels and a little bit about your experiences. Please tell us more.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Dagmar, and also thank you for inviting me. Yes, my experience with angels, what I believe the angels are here to do on this planet, they just want to support us and shower us with unconditional love and help us to heal and to move on and give the helping hand in a situation when you feel like sometimes there is no hope, there is no, there's no picture of tomorrow, of happiness. And they are here to shower you with unconditional love because angels, they don't have all those human emotions. They don't judge. They don't gossip. They are here just to purely support you and help you in difficult situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about some experiences that you've had, Aga?
Yes. So I have always known that there are angels since I was a little girl. I remember my mom or my grandma, they would tell me, when I would go to sleep in the evening, sweet dreams, dream about angels. So I always knew that there are creatures like angels. I just didn't really know what the purpose is. So when I grew up, when I awakened to my spiritual gifts that were buried since I was little, deep inside me, when I woke up to them, I started learning more about angels, the purpose, different kinds of angels. I attended 1 year of angel mystery school run by Claire Stone, and I became an angelic priestess. And I have learned so much about every single angel. Well, not every single angel, because there is so many of them. But yeah, like for example, archangels. So we have worked with every single one. I have been able to learn what the purpose of each angel is and how they can assist me in my healing journey, how they can give me that helping hand, and how to ask them for help, how to connect with them. Because to be honest, it's extremely easy to connect with them as soon as you open yourself up to that support.
Oh, do you know what? I get this so much. I hear this from a lot of my guests and with people that I speak to. It's all about that journey of opening up and allowing yourself to believe that this beautiful experience can be there for not just you and me, but for everybody. And that's one of the reasons I have, my guests on the show so that you can help people in your own way by sharing your story and letting others know that this is there for them as well. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, I noticed your business is called Mama from the Moon. How did that come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So Mama from the Moon was born over 3 years ago, and the moon, it's because, I'm a woman, I'm a mama, and I'm a nurturer. And every person who comes either to work with me or my friends, my family, I always look after them as if I am a mom. I will feed them, I will nurture them, I will hug them. I'm a shoulder to cry on, and I'm just a safe space, as a mother would be for every single child. And moon, because I am very deeply connected with the moon, with all the cycles. They all affect me and everyone else in different ways, and I just felt like it really fits. And I am mama from the moon, and also the work that I do. It's not only on the planet Earth; it's all on various spiritual realms. So I feel like if you hear mama from the moon, it gives you an image of of all the cosmos, galaxy, and that's how it was born.
I love it. I love it. I noticed that you promote yourself as a holistic therapist. So do you bring angels into the therapies with clients, or does it just come in if clients believe in that, or do you invoke your angels before you start a session? Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I always have my angels with me, because maybe if someone that's listening doesn't know this, when you are born, before you are born, you have your guardian angel, at least one of your guardian angels assigned to you, and they are with you every single second of your life.
Yeah.
And I always work with my personal team of angels and my spirit guides and ancestors. And it is part of the work that I do. When you work with me, it is the whole package. You connect with your spirit guides, you connect with your ancestors, but also you learn how to communicate and work with your guardian angel.
It sounds like, now just listening to you, it sounds like there's a course there. Have you got a course that you've created for people to connect with their angels?
Yes. So I do have a 12-week program. It's extremely transformative program. And I called it Rediscover because it touches all the bases, from breaking the cycles within your ancestral lineage to, setting boundaries. I have escaped and survived domestic violence. So, my clients also have similar background. So from setting boundaries to, connecting with your ancestors, getting help with breaking the cycles, rediscovering your superpowers, because, when you have been subjected to an abuse, it's extremely likely that you don't feel like you've got anything to show to the world. Like you forget that you've got superpowers, and I'm there to help you bring all of that out to the surface. And yes, and working with angels is also one of the steps, because for me, it's a basic support that you can receive. But the effects of working with your angels, with your spiritual team, we are building that team up along the 12-week course program. So when you finish the program, you know that you are not alone anymore, and that you always have your team to connect with and get the support instantly, right? That's my program.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And to all our listeners, I really hope that you do get in touch with Aga if, you want to go down that program. I do have something that you just brought up, and I've heard people say this. I have an answer to this, but I'm going to ask you a question and get your own thoughts. Now, we're talking about angels protecting us. Now, some people might be very cynical and say, well, you've had this journey, like many others, where they've been through a cycle of abuse. Why didn't my angels protect me from that? Like I said, I've got an answer on that, but what would you say to someone if they said that to you?
Right. So first of all, if you have ever been subjected to any sort of abuse, I do sympathize with you and, sending you a massive hug. However, I believe before we come to this life, to this planet Earth, to this incarnation, current one, we do choose our lessons to go through during this lifetime. And as sad as it sounds, some of the abuse, it's not something to destroy you. It's something to teach you about your own strength. The abuse, to go through that, it is absolutely horrible, and nobody should do it. However, some people like me, I needed that lesson to realize that I don't want to carry this on anymore, right? It was also connected with my ancestors. But what I want to say is, yes, you might feel like, oh, my angel, my guardian angel didn't protect me from going through this abuse. No, your guardian angel has protected you, because even though you have experienced this abuse, you have been protected from something maybe even worse.
Yeah. Great.
The point when you decide to set yourself free, you also get the support from your angel, because they help you to get yourself away from that situation. And it is very, like you said, it's absolutely true. Very often I also used to hear, I had an accident, for example, but so why did my angel not protect me? But you don't know what you are actually protected from if you didn't go into this particular accident, which maybe was not a major one. Couple of meters away, maybe there was a massive collision that, it could cost you your life. So even though it feels like you are not being protected right at this minute, you actually are, because you never know what else could have happened to you.
Yeah, and I love that. You phrased it exactly how I had the goosebumps happening as you were talking about that, because it's pretty much exactly what I believe too, because I've done work with past life regression with clients, and I too believe that we choose certain lessons that we have to overcome in our lifetime, the life that we are living. So even though some of those lessons could be incredibly, incredibly tough, that doesn't mean that our angels aren't protecting us. You're absolutely right. There could have been worse out there that they're protecting us from. And this is something so interesting because, I don't know if you've heard this, people complaining about, oh, I'm late, I was caught in a traffic jam, or, I've been delayed. And my husband's one of those. And I say to him, yes, but maybe there was a purpose that you were delayed. Maybe your angels were protecting you from something worse that was happening down the road. Maybe because you were delayed, you're not the person who's in that accident down the road. That could have been you. So I think, there is, when we're talking about this topic, even though it's very hard, some of these things that we're talking about right now, we do need to acknowledge we still have to live our own life. We still have to live our own lessons. And there's a learning there. And that's why people need to come to someone like you, Aga, to help break those ancestral chains. So absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I really appreciate the input and the insights that you have given to our listeners. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you?
Yes, and thank you again for inviting me. Yes, you can connect with me on my Instagram. The name is Mama from the Moon. And yeah, that's how you can get in touch. That's how you can see a little bit of the work that I do and see, whether we are a good fit, whether we vibe together. And yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you break in those patterns, I'm your girl.
Absolutely lovely. And do get in touch with Aga. Absolutely lovely to help you break those chains and to, get into that transformative cycle where you can rediscover yourself. So hopefully that you don't have to live that kind of lesson again next time around. Aga, any last words that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I'd like to say that once you open yourself up for support from your angels, you will experience a massive shift in your life. And you can talk to your angels the way you talk to your friends, to your family. They are always there to listen to you. And once you believe they are there to support you, once you ask them for a sign, angels speak to you in a way that you will understand. So if they have any message for you when you are open to receive them, when they communicate with you, you will always know that they are the ones speaking to you through various ways.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for that beautiful final message. Aga, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us here and giving up your time. I wish you all the very best and many blessings to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and same to you. All the best.
In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome to the Angelic Footprints podcast. Today is another special episode, and I'd like to take the time today to talk about angels in our lives, real stories of angel experiences, not just in my life, but in people's lives that I know. I personally work very much with the angelic realm, in particular, Archangel Michael. I've had numerous experiences where he has shown his presence around me. Archangel Michael is a very powerful being, and when I've asked for his help, I will get confirmation of his presence, often when someone by the name of Michael gives me assistance. One story that springs to mind is when I was in England. Now, this was before I was living here, and my sister and I went to Harry Potter World, both of us being huge Harry Potter fans. Now, to get into Harry Potter World, you have to pre-purchase tickets online, and the only tickets that we could get were for entry at 12 noon or later, which, to be honest, was considerably later than we wanted to get in. So I said to her, let's book the tickets for 12 noon and we'll manifest that there's a way that we can get in earlier, and I will put my request up to Archangel Michael. On the day, we left super early, as England's motorways can get notoriously blocked up if there is a traffic incident, and we had about a 2-hour drive to get there. As it turned out, we arrived early at about 10:15 a.m. We asked at the ticket desk about getting in early, and we were directed to an usher whose name was Michael, who let us through. Not 5 minutes later, there was an announcement that no other people would be able to get in until their allotted time, and Michael was no longer there admitting people. Coincidence? I actually don't believe in coincidences, so to me, that's a big no, because I've had way too many of these types of experiences for that to be the case. Not only did we have a clear run on the roads, we got in early, we had a fantastic day, and managed to beat rush hour traffic home. My sister-in-law said she couldn't believe it, as that never happens to her. Me, I just said thanks to Archangel Michael for his help. Let me share with you another occasion where my husband and I, Glenn, were preparing for our radio show in Australia. This was quite a few years ago now, so this was on A1R radio, and we had set the concept for the show as being about angels, and we were off down the road to buy a few bits of shopping. Whilst talking about our inspiration for that particular show and whether this would be right for us, a car passed us with the registration of MCHAEL. And yes, it was spelt that way, but do you think this might have been a divine message that we got the right subject? Absolutely. The angels did want to bring this particular show through to our listeners. There was another time when Glenn and I were out to dinner with a close friend of mine, and we were talking about our angelic experiences. Before long, we were on the topic of Archangel Michael, and we both burst out in unison. I've seen him, and he's huge. I have no doubt whatsoever that Archangel Michael and other angels have helped me in my life. You may recall in the very first episode, I told you my story of being saved by an angel when I was a pedestrian hit by a car. Archangel Michael has shown his presence on many occasions, and he is a powerful being that brings help and healing, not only to me, but countless other people. There are too many stories for it all to be a coincidence, not just for myself, but from all these people who have had angelic experiences. I'd like to share with you a lovely story from a friend of mine, Maria, And she was telling me that many years ago she was feeling frustrated and she spoke to Archangel Michael and said, I'm always talking to you, but I never hear anything back. Are you even there? Anyway, she goes on to say, I fell asleep and woke sometime in the early hours to the delicious smell of something baking. The smell became so intense and almost overwhelming. I got out of bed to see if I could find where the smell was coming from. I wondered if my young son at the time had woken up and decided to bake cookies. But no, he was fast asleep. The smell was all around her, and she said she was baffled. Then a thought dropped into her head. It was a part of a line from the movie Michael, as played by John Travolta. It had been years since she'd watched that movie, so how she even remembered the line, she couldn't really say. But the line from the movie said, he smells like... Smells like what? She wasn't sure of the rest of the line. So she dug out a copy of the DVD, which was stashed away in the cupboard, and played the movie on fast forward until she got to the line, he smells like cookies. Now, I'm not saying he actually smells like cookies, but seeing as I couldn't see or hear him, I feel like that this was his way of letting me know he's around. Now, those are her words. She says he chose a way that I could connect with him, and it made her chuckle, and she still laughs whenever she thinks of it, because it turns out our angels have a sense of humor. Another story that I would like to pass on is from Tracy from Geelong in Australia. She tells me that this occurred when she was in the birthing suite at the women's hospital. Whilst she had many midwives over a 23-hour period, she had one very special one who sat through the early hours until her son Nash was born at 7 p.m. The nurse told her that her name was Joy Kingdom and that she had been a midwife for many years. She helped her through the whole childbirth. Tracy didn't even realize that she was an angel until a week later when she went back to thank the midwives and specifically asked for Joy. The midwives at the hospital said, we don't have any midwife here of that name and never have had. Tracy says, I believe that angels do exist and come to our aid when we need that extra love and support. This is another story from another Tracy. This one, she's from Sydney in Australia. Tracy was in a car accident when she was 17 years old and crossed over whilst on the table in the hospital. She remembers waking up in a room in a bed, and as she sat up and looked around her, she saw that there were 6 people in the room with her. There were 2 on either side of the bed, 2 at the end of the bed with their backs to her, and she looked at everyone and just felt pure love and being calm and happy. She was told, it's all right, it's not your time. You still have things to do. Lie down and go to sleep. She woke up in hospital 3 weeks later after being in a coma, hooked up to machines that were keeping her alive, and she had a neck brace on. Her mother told her that she had died on the table. She has amnesia about the accident, but knows that there was no pain when she woke up. Her injuries were severe, and she has had pain for many subsequent years. She knows that she was meant to live on, to be a carer for the aged and disabled, and she has 4 children and a husband that she cherishes dearly. You know, I want to end this podcast with an experience from a few years ago. You may recall me mentioning that I completed a thesis paper some time ago on the topic of angels and archangels. I was doing this back in 2016, and I had to put it on hold for a while as my husband and I were devoting our time and energy to moving to California. It was in September 2018 that I received a message during a meditation that I needed to finish this thesis paper. I looked up my original notes, and sure enough, I had already completed almost 5,000 words of the paper. On the following day, I was speaking to a networking colleague, and she asked me if I was doing anything on the following Monday, as she had free tickets to the Angels game at Angels Stadium in Anaheim. Was there a confirmation message there for me? Absolutely. Angels had made themselves heard. They wanted this thesis paper to be completed, even if they didn't end up winning the game on Monday night. What I find most amazing is how angels make themselves heard in so many ways. As you have heard from this episode and from others, whether it's from me or my guests of the show, when we open ourselves up to their existence and we start to listen, and I mean really listen, and pay attention, the evidence for angels being in our lives is everywhere. I say that leaving you with the thought that only this morning I found a feather on the carpet in our living room. And no, it wasn't the down feather from my pillow. Your angels want to be a part of your life in a deeper, more meaningful way. And when we can experience their presence, our lives take on a magical quality. All you have to do is open your heart and open your mind. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome to the Angelic Footprints podcast. So far, the topics of the show have been about angels in our lives and the historic significance of angels. In episode 3, you were able to experience the healing power of an angelic meditation. There have also been guests who have told you about their own experiences and what these have meant for them in their lives. What I would like to also add to the diversity of the show is angels in your travels. For me, I have had many angelic encounters, and I always find it a magical experience seeing how artists over time have interpreted the presence of angels or added the magic of angels into the world that we live in. Sure, you can go to any church or cemetery and you are bound to find some kind of depiction of angels. What I am going to share with you over future episodes are places where you can go to experience angels in many different formats. Today, the first city that we are going to journey to together is going to be London. London has existed for over 2,000 years. The Romans established a settlement called Londinium in 43 CE on the site of the current city of London. The settlement was a major port and commercial centre in Roman Britain. The area was originally settled by early hunter-gatherers many years before that. In fact, it was settled around 6000 BC, and researchers have found evidence of Bronze Age bridges and Iron Age forts near the River Thames. There have been many settlers and invaders over time, and today London is a vibrant cultural and financial centre. With that in mind, I want to take you on a different tour of London, one where you may get to see the influence of angels. Now, for any tourist who is coming to London, Buckingham Palace is a well-known landmark on the tourist trail. But did you know that in front of Buckingham Palace is the Victoria Memorial, and on it stands a golden statue of the Angel of Victory. Now, the Victoria Memorial is a monument to Queen Victoria, and it's located at the end of the Mall in London, and it was created by the sculptor Sir Thomas Brock. He designed it back in 1901. It was unveiled on the 16th of May 1911, though it was not actually completed until 1924. We're talking 100 years ago. Now, this memorial includes the three angels of virtue: the angel of justice that is located on the north side of the monument, the angel of truth located on the opposite side of the monument facing southeast, charity located on the western side of the monument facing Buckingham Palace. The memorial also includes a gilded bronze statue of winged victory at the top of the central pylon, a marble sculpture of Queen Victoria facing eastward, statues of constancy and courage seated on the either side of the winged victory. I'm sure if you go and visit the Angel of Victory on top of the Victoria Memorial, you'll now be able to look at it with different eyes. Even if you've been to it before, go and see it again. Next on our journey is the Angel of Peace, located near Hyde Park Corner at the end of Constitution Hill. This is the largest bronze sculpture in London, and it sits atop the Wellington Arch. Set in the heart of Royal London, both the Wellington Arch and Marble Arch originally were supposed to be in front of Buckingham Palace. Now, that was where it was planned in 1825 by George IV to commemorate Britain's victories in the Napoleonic Wars. This sculpture depicts Nike, the winged goddess of victory, descending on the chariot of war, holding the classical symbol of victory and honor, which is a laurel wreath. The face of the charioteer leading the quadriga is that of a small boy. Interestingly enough, this was the son of one Lord Mickleham, who funded the sculpture. Again, a wonderful sculpture that I'm sure that now that you know that she's there, that you will love to go and have a look at. And while you're there adding to your itinerary, let's take a look at the Shaftesbury Memorial Fountain, located at Piccadilly Circus in London. The Shaftesbury Memorial Fountain, officially and popularly known as Eros, is a fountain surmounted by a winged statue of Anteros, located at the southeastern side of Piccadilly Circus. It was moved there after the Second World War from its original position in the centre of the circus. It was erected way back in 1892 and 93 to commemorate the philanthropic works of the 7th Earl of Shaftesbury. He was a politician and philanthropist, and his achievement is one of replacing child labour with school education. The model for the sculpture was Gilbert's studio assistant, a 16-year-old Anglo-Italian named Angelo Colarossi. Isn't that interesting? A young boy named Angelo being the muse for Gilbert's figure of an angel. I want to now introduce you to the beautiful angel wings statue at Islington. This area is home to Angel Central, which, funnily enough, is a huge shopping centre with a stainless steel sculpture called, of all things, Angel Wings. It's a 15-metre stainless steel angel sculpture. It was designed in 2003 by artists Wolfgang Buttress and Fiona Heron as the centre's focal point. Now, there were angel wings there before, and a young girl was fighting plans to remove a beautiful sculpture from the shopping centre as part of an £11 million revamp. And the original owner of Angel Central in Islington wanted to relocate the towering angel wing sculpture to make way for a raised walkway. However, it was agreed that the angel wings would be refurbished. A company by the name of Goodman Metalworks were commissioned to remodel the sculpture. The angel wing is very special as it is a symbol of angels who symbolize purity, courage, love, harmony, and protection. They provide us with happiness, hope, and faith. Is it any wonder then that a young girl of 10 years old wanted to fight to keep the beautiful original sculpture? And it was because of her and the petition from many local residents that meant that the original sculpture was remodeled and recommissioned to be part of this new venue. I encourage you to go and see that, because it's not one of those things that you would normally find on your average tourist trek. I'd like you now to venture down Oxford Street. As many of you might know, Oxford Street is one of the busiest shopping areas of London, where there are several large department stores, one of them being Selfridges. Wikipedia tells me it was voted the best department store in the world in 2010 and 2012. Many people who enjoy shopping there don't actually know the story of the creation of the store. Selfridges was opened back in 1909. It was designed by the American architect Daniel Burnham, who also designed Marshall's Fields, Chicago, Filene's in Boston, Wanamaker's in Philadelphia, and Gimbel's and Wanamaker's in New York. The grand classical facade hides a structural secret. Selfridges was one of the first buildings in England built around a steel frame. Now, the gentleman who owned it once upon a time, Harry Selfridge, wanted to create a store that was the third most visited place in London after the Tower of London and Buckingham Palace. He built the first grand modern department store in England. Now, an 11-foot statue by Gilbert Bayes stands above the entrance to Selfridge's store in Oxford Street. The statue depicts the Queen of Time on the prow of the ship of commerce, with nymphs attending her. The statue was unveiled back in 1931 to celebrate the store's 21st birthday. What then does the Queen of Time have to do with angels? What's interesting is the Queen looks remarkably like Athena, holding the small figure of Nike, which represents victory, in her right hand, and a sprig of laurel, which is also a symbol of victory, in her left. But unlike Athena, she wears no armor, and Nike stands on an orb, a regal attribute. She is also winged, which in many ways is a metaphorical sign for time flies. Her supporters are mermaids holding phases of the moon, controlling the tides. The clock behind supports an Elizabethan ship, recalling the early days of the exploration that would lead to the Industrial Revolution, trade, commerce, and globalization. In many ways, the Queen of Time is a figure representative of many different aspects of life, who we are, and what the store owner wanted to create, a beautiful memorial for everyone to be able to see. So when next you are down in Oxford Street, remember to look up to see the Queen of Time, the beautiful clock, and the beautiful Queen with her beautiful angel wings. Another place that I would love you to go and visit is the Central Criminal Court, otherwise known as the Old Bailey, which is situated close to St. Paul's Cathedral on the street of Old Bailey, running north from Ludgate Hill to Holborn. Here you will find Fortitude and Truth flanking the recording angel above the City of London arms. There is also the statue of Justice. The depiction of Justice is traditionally represented as a strong woman, often resembling an Amazon warrior. In her left hand, she holds a set of scales, which are typically used to measure fairness. These scales are light and without chains, so they don't overshadow the sword she holds in her right hand. The sword is also designed to be slender enough to be manageable with one hand, emphasizing that only someone as powerful as Justice could maintain this pose for an extended period. When you look up to see the statue of Justice, notice that Justice stands still upon a globe, symbolizing her universal authority and the idea that she governs the entire world. Overall, it's supposed to convey a strong sense of balance, fairness, and eternal vigilance in the pursuit of justice. But the angels in this building don't stop there. The recording angel at the front of the building, while it is depicted as a cloaked woman, she has a protective hood and her features are noted as being particularly impressive. And with her is the angel of fortitude, and she embodies strength and resilience. Overall, the three figures are elegantly arranged on a curved, open pediment above the entrance, and it draws your eye upward to the apex of the recording angel's head. And on the other side of her is the angel of truth. She is portrayed reclining and looking into a round mirror, symbolizing self-reflection. A snake is wrapped around her arm, representing knowledge. Overall, you have these beautiful angels representing a number of different aspects of the human condition. That's all for today. I hope today's episode inspires you to go out and visit the London Angels in a new light. While they are merely one person's interpretation, angels are with you every step of the way. There are more angels to be found, and we will explore their locations in future episodes. Join me in my Angelic Footprints Facebook group, where I will share photos of these amazing angels, and you will be able to keep up to date on information regarding future episodes and also connect with like-minded people. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us to another episode of Angelic Footprints. And today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Shilpi, and her business is Awakening with Shilpi. Now, Shilpi is a modern-day spiritual alchemist on a quest to transmute life's experiences into profound wisdom and enlightenment. She has 22 years of experience as a psychic and clairvoyant guide, and she leads seekers on a transformative journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. This entails exploring the alchemy of the soul, unlocking the secrets of inner transformation and empowerment. How powerful is that? Shilpi inspires others to awaken their true potential and embrace the magic of spiritual alchemy in their lives. She holds that beautiful space for you while you lead on to discover your light within. Shilpi, it's such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making time for today's show. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe even something about your angelic experiences.
Hi, Dagmar. First of all, thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure. I am Shilpi. I play a lot of roles. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, but most importantly, I feel and I agree that I'm a vessel of light. I'm a beautiful channel. And the journey began when I was learning to navigate life. And I was in my medical college when I started getting visions, messages, and guidance because I really needed to know where is this life going. The world didn't make sense. Outside was all chaos. And that's when I reached out and said, is there anybody who can guide me? And that's when I started hearing and getting visions. Now, of course, there have been many, many experiences, but let me come down to the most beautiful ones that really resonate every time I sit down and doubt the support system that I have around. I do remember once I was driving down the highway, my car broke down. I was in the middle of a 6-lane highway, and then suddenly somebody knocks at the window and says, it is India. India is unsafe. It was 10:30 in the night. And the gentleman says, there's something wrong with your spark plug. Can I drop you? Your house is just 10 minutes away. I was like, you're scared. And then I kind of allowed him because there was no other way. I'm in the middle of a flyover. So he drops us home and I see him and he turns around. I said, thank you. And he says, don't worry. It'll just take a 5-minute thing, $20. It's a spark plug. By the time I can turn around and say, thank you, he's gone. And my dad comes and says, how did you know it's a spark plug? And that's when I was like, where did that guy meet you? I said, on the flyover. He said, how come? So, that was one of the first instances I remember when it could have been very dangerous for me to be out there in the middle, literally at 11 at night. That was one of the most beautiful experiences I had. Further on, I remember I was standing on a beach, very awed by I love the sea, did not realize a massive wave coming in, and it literally pulled me away with it. It was a 10-foot wave. And I remember I thought, this is it. And then out of nowhere, something caught my hand with my bag and everything in that hand. And the wave passed by. And when I realized, there was a pillar that I was holding. Now, strangely enough, there was no pillar when I was standing there. If it was way out of my line of where I would have been taken, by the way, because I wasn't standing next to a pillar. I had so much sand that day, in my hair and all. And while I was showering, I just heard, it wasn't your time yet. And I was like, okay. And I was, that's the first time I realized that I am guided, protected. And so I literally offered gratitude. I was that time. And I think that's when a two-way relationship began, where I would, it's almost like how do you build up a relationship with a stranger? You kind of acknowledge, nod, and then you kind of build a two-way. Oh, thank you, for doing this for me. It's nice to see you. And that's how all of us can build that relationship, because all of us have access to angels around us. They're all around us.
Well, that's absolutely right. And thank you. Thank you for sharing, because, it's not until we get those moments where all of a sudden something profound happens. And you've just told us 2 profound stories of experiences that happened to you. Tell me, how have you brought that into the work that you do, and how has this affected your life?
The experiences then took me to actually my pregnancies and motherhood. And I do believe that the souls that came in as my children were preparing me to handle them. So it's all about your inner work, your work, and then that adds an extension to what you can offer to the world. Because it's not about me giving out something to the world. It's about me fulfilling it so much that I overflow and it kind of impacts everybody. So that's how I work. And I did have a profound experience with both my pregnancies, where one I was wheeled out with somebody, with a guy introducing himself as an anesthetist with blue eyes. And when I went to thank back, they said there's no anesthetist with blue eyes. The second one was I had a miscarriage in between both my kids. The DNC, when it finished at 14 weeks, I had this vision of an angel in blue on my, periphery saying, I'll come back in so and so month. And now you'll be ready for me. So I knew that there is a soul coming in who really requires me to step up. And because that miscarriage was because of no heartbeat, post that, when I conceived exactly the month that I'd heard in, I saw hearts literally like somebody coming from the gym with sweat. I would see if I'm making a bread, it'll turn into a heart. And that was their way of saying, don't worry, the heartbeat is fine, the time is right, you don't have to worry. And that then began, Dagmar, into me realizing that life is full of challenges, but I have support, I am supported and I'm guarded, provided I have faith and complete surrender, and I remember to ask.
Oh, I love that. It's the key, isn't it? Because in one of the episodes that I'm going to be doing, it is about learning to ask, isn't it? One of the first keys is recognizing angels are working with us, but then also remembering to ask for help, because I'm sure that you've got loads more stories of when you've asked and you've received help. Would you like to share one of those with us about asking for help and then receiving that help?
So two of them, a few years ago, I was sitting outside my kid's school and I was speaking to a mom and she said, what do you do? I'm an angel intuitive. And then, I explained everything to her, got into the car and said, I hope, I've seen you, it is. And then suddenly, Dagmar, somebody calls out to me, beautiful lady, like really gorgeous. And she says, hello, and whiff. And the moment I turn back, there's nobody. And there's no way somebody can just vanish because it's a massive U-turn. There's no car parking. And I was like, okay. And then I remember the second time, doubt is always there until you completely surrender. Praying and doing my regular thing around the water lake here. And then I said, okay, if I'm really guarded and supported, I need a rubber band because I'm not going to walk without my open hair. And I've forgotten my hair tie today. And there's only black hair ties that I use. You would not believe. I saw one right there on the path. Of course, I didn't pick it up. And then I just kind of crossed it and said, I heard. You asked for one? Right there it is. There is no scope of doubt again. All right. And that was it. No more testing, only complete faith and surrender. Then to ask.
Well, that's the thing. And it's funny that you should say that because I've got a story like that as well. I remember one time, actually asking, because I, like you, have a deep connection to Archangel Michael. And I know that you and I had this conversation before we started the recording. And quite a few years ago now, I was living in my house in Melbourne in Australia. And I asked Archangel Michael, is it possible to see him? And on this one occasion, I remember I always go for my walk in the morning. And on this one occasion, because the road was a double divided road, but there was a pedestrian section where you stop in the middle. And there was this guy standing beside me, all of a sudden came out of nowhere, really super tall.
Wow.
Blondish hair, quite short, but he had those, they have those jeans on that are quite baggy. He had his baggy jeans on and his T-shirt, and he's walking beside me as we cross the first section of road. And we're both standing in the middle because we're waiting for the next section to get clear. And he sort of looks at me, smiles, and then walks across the road. And I'm looking at him, and he just gives me this big smile. And then I go to walk along, and then I look back at him, and he's crossed the road. And on the other side of the road is like a bus stop that is completely clear perspex, but he's crossed the road back again and disappeared. Disappeared. And I'm going, I know who you were. It was just this instant realization. Oh my goodness, you showed yourself to me. I asked, there you are. And
wow,
this is the reason we're having, these conversations, you and me. And I want our listeners to realize that they too can have these experiences and just know how to ask. In terms of anything that you would like, what is it that you would like to share with our listeners about angels or angelic experiences? Is there, if you had the opportunity to say, what is one thing that you would like to impart to our listeners, what would that be?
You're very well supported. You're very well guarded and protected. All you need is complete faith and surrender. I cannot emphasize, it might be a repetition, Dagmar, but unless there's faith and complete surrender, there is no way forward. And I'm sure a lot of us have had those experiences, but maybe they've not registered because we've had that self-doubt. So when we talk about spiritual alchemy, it's transforming that energy of self-doubt, fear, limiting beliefs to an energy of knowing. You're here for a reason. There's only one of you on this entire planet with your energy. So you are special. You have your guardian angels with you. So do not worry. Do not operate out of fear. Can you just come back to yourself and, ask for guidance? Ask for them like you asked him to show up. I always do that. Initially, when I was channeling, I would always say, can you show me I'm ready? And I literally would, hear flap. I could hear the wings behind me. Sometimes when I was doubtful of, when I was driving, I would say, are you around me? And I would literally, feel those wings. So it's so beautiful. Once you open up to that world, it's magic.
I would agree 100%. It is, isn't it? It is that magic that you get to experience in your life. And it is about opening up to that, because what you said is absolutely true. And thank you for sharing that message. It is about opening up, coming back to yourself, because we are spiritual beings living a physical life. And yet so many people forget that side of themselves, who never talk about that, only focusing, I've got to do this, I've got to finish this, I've got all these jobs to do, and never taking time to come back to center, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very easy, Dagmar. It is very fast-paced life. There's so much exposure. There's so much fear because you're constantly kind of on the social media, and obviously what is put out there is what grabs attention. So that's another way of me being here. Like I told you, let's put it out there so that instead of focusing on what's not going right, let's focus on the glimmers and the sparkles. And honestly, the glimmer and the sparkle in my life are these angelic experiences. The fact that I know no matter how difficult or challenging a situation is, I have this support. I'll ask for it. Of course, it's me who's going to go through it. But then you're not alone.
Well, we all have challenging experiences. I mean, that's what we're here for, isn't it? That's part of our journey. Shelby, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story. Tell me and our listeners, please, what is it that you do for your clients, so that in case, I'm hoping that people will want to get in touch with you. What is it that you can help people with?
Dagmar, I am an angel intuitive. I'm a clairvoyant. I bring forth messages from your spirit guides, your angels, your guardian angels, your higher consciousness to, guide you on where you are in your journey. So most of the people who come to me, when you think of these things when you're stuck. So when you're stuck, you come to me and I say, all right, you are stuck. Let's see why you're stuck. Let's transform that energy of stuck coming from fear, self-doubt, those limiting beliefs, to all the energy of the events that's happened, that's brought down your faith in yourself and faith in your ability to, go forth in life. And then, of course, when the validations come and the messages that come from the guides and the angels about what I wouldn't know about their life unless I could really have access to angels and their Akashic records, completely transforms the energy that they come, and then it's a lot of validation that comes forth. So basically, just awaken, hold the space while you awaken the healer in yourself, and are back on your feet to ask for guidance and look for the signs so that you can navigate your life on your own.
Oh, Shelby, thank you. Well, just to round off on that, can you please tell people how they can connect with you?
They can connect with me on www.awakeningwithshilpi.com. Shilpi is with a double L. Same for the Facebook, same for the Instagram. All of these medias, you have an option to message me. You can email me on awakeningwithshilpi@gmail.com. And most importantly, if you're meant to connect with me, angels are at work, so that'll happen on its own as well.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for spending today with us and our listeners. And I hope that if you are drawn to connect with Shilpi, to get her to help you with your own awakening, then please do get in touch. I will be putting Shilpi's details onto the website so that you can connect with her. And it's been such a blessing to have you here to share your story. And thank you once again. I wish you all the very best, Shilpi. Blessings.
Likewise, Dagmar. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome everybody to today's episode of Angelic Footprints. Today I have another special guest here to talk about angelic experiences so that you, our listeners, can get to hear someone else who's had experiences that are relatable, experience that she will share with you. Her name is Barbara Gautier, and she grew up knowing that she had a brother who had died at birth. As she reached teenage years, she felt that he was her guardian angel and attributed many miraculous experiences to his watchful care. In 2007, her newborn daughter also became an angel in her life. This relationship is far more active and instructive and expanding for Barbara. With angelic guidance, Barbara has become a certified crystal healer, author, life coach, speaker, and motorcycle rider. We are really excited to talk to her today. Barbara, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Dagmar, for this opportunity to be with you and speak about angels, because they are so much a part of our lives as much as we let them in. They are all around us and expecting and excited to help us. And I've learned that they can only do so once we recognize that they're there and invite them into our lives. So I'm grateful to share some of my experiences with your listeners today, and hopefully they will be inspired to invite more angels into their lives to have similar experiences.
I really hope that, our listeners will get something from this story in that regard. Tell me about some of your angelic experience that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Oh, thank you for that opportunity. And I knew my younger brother was like a guardian angel, and I was not a super reckless teenager, but I made some poor choices here and there. And there was always that moment of feeling like somebody saved me from making a disaster of my life and some of those choices. And I attributed it to my brother nudging me and pulling me out and making things change directions. And so I knew he was there, but I didn't really interact with him. I didn't ask for help. I just knew that he was that safety hand to keep me from going off of the cliff. And then in 2007, I lost my daughter, and she had a genetic disorder called trisomy 13. So we knew that we wouldn't have her very long. And my prayer was that I would have her as long as I could. And the doctor said, well, oftentimes these children are stillborn. They don't even make it through the birthing process because their systems are so delicate. And I just prayed that I would have her for as long as I could. And the miracle was that we had her for 2.5 hours before she slipped away. And that was just a blessing, a tender mercy. And the next morning after she passed, I got up early at dawn's light. And as I looked out the window, there were some wispy clouds up over the mountain. And they looked like little baby footprints in the clouds. And I just, when your podcast is the, footprints of heaven, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my daughter. So from that point on, I just had a very special connection with her. And I was grieving that loss, even though I knew it had been expected. And one of my friends came up to me and offered me a rose quartz heart and said, I know you're grieving. Put this in your bra over your heart and it will help you heal. And I said, it's a rock. And she said, I know it is, but it will help you feel better. I said, it's a rock. She said, Barbara, do you love me? Do you trust me? I said, I do. She goes, put it in your bra and just trust me. I said, yeah, but it's a rock. She goes, just do it. So I did. And a couple of weeks later, I went back to her. I said, I'm feeling better. What is this? I need to understand this. And that's where my journey of crystal healing came in. I'd always been fascinated with the geology of the earth, mountains and volcanoes and that kind of thing, but I had not understood the properties of energy with those crystals and rocks. And she was my guide. She helped me dive deep into that and guided me to books and mentors and rock shops and museums where I could increase my collection. And now I have an extensive collection that rivals any museum.
Oh, that is absolutely divine, that story. I love that story. And it's wonderful how your daughter guided you and your sister in a lot of ways as well with the rocks. I mean, as you say, it's a rock, but it's not just a rock. You know, the beautiful thing about crystals, and if you could see my room here, you know, I have so many crystals in this beautiful space. I've got my Archangel Michael, and you know, it is all about that healing that crystals can give to us. And I'm so glad that you had the opportunity of finding this gift. How do you use what you have learned through this experience now with the people that you know and the people that come to you?
Oh, thank you. I use it in a variety of ways. I have learned that there are many different layers of angels. And we have, as you said, archangels that are over the whole world and are looking after us. And then we have very personalized individual angels. And I know that I can create angel committees for specific purposes in my life. And one of them was when I was introduced to riding motorcycles 4 years ago. And I created an angel committee and I just asked God to send the best angels that know what I'm trying to understand and create. And I asked for 3 or 4 angels, whatever the committee needs to be to keep me safe, to keep me guided. So the fun little story with my motorcycle riding is I was in the safety class required to get my license. And as I was going through the techniques, I made a mistake and dropped the bike and fell and scraped my arm and broke a part of the motorcycle off. And I was all frustrated and mad. And I'm like, Angels, where are you? Why aren't you protecting me? And this deep voice said, we're here. This is part of your training. And I went,
Oh,
okay. Well, and I didn't ask their names before times. Sometimes I asked their names and I didn't ask. I said, well, who? And I got really cocky. I'm like, well, who are you to be telling me that this is all part of my training? He goes, I'm Evil Knievel. Now, growing up, he had been one of my heroes in motorcycle riding with his daring, death-defying leaps. And he crashed more than he succeeded, oftentimes, it felt like. And I was like, oh, he goes, you need to know how it feels to fall so that you know you can get back up.
isn't that interesting?
Yes. So that was a very, very powerful lesson from the very beginning. It says it's not about not falling, it's about knowing how to get back up. I thought that was just very powerful.
It is, absolutely. And I think my ex before my husband, he had a bike. He had a Yamaha R1. Great being on the back of the bike. And I, like you, learnt how to ride a bike. And it's a great experience. But my ex always said, you know, when you're riding a bike, it's not a case of if you're going to fall, it's a case of when you are going to fall, because there will be that time. And I think your lesson is so profound, you know, teaching you that, oh, well, you got to learn how to get back up. But if we think about it, it's so deep. It's like a metaphor for other things as well, isn't it? Because whenever we try something, doesn't mean that we're automatically going to be successful, but we have to learn how to get up. So that's a really, really powerful lesson on so many levels that you've invoked there.
Yep, it is. Another experience with angels and my motorcycles is I have a friend that set me on to riding long distance rides for certificates. And the requirement is that you ride 1,000 miles in less than 24 hours. And it's pretty
Brutal.
grueling, pretty hardcore there. And so I got really excited to do one of those right away. And I was not prepared, but I was more excited than worried about it. So I took off on this long distance ride shortly after I got my license and got my bike. And on the way back, the last couple of 100 miles, I was exhausted physically mentally, and I was really worried that I wouldn't make it back safely. And I asked my angel committee, I said, Heavenly Father, I need angels. I'm in a naked street bike. I'm on a Kawasaki Z650, and it doesn't have any windshields or fairing. So I'm getting the full force of the wind for this full 1,000 miles. And my shoulders hurt, and I couldn't breathe. And it was dark, and it was getting cold, and I just needed to make it home. And I said, all right, I need an angel in my front as a fairing to blow the wind up over me. I need angels on both sides of me to keep this bike upright. I need an angel flying ahead of me to clear the path so that there's no police officers. And I need an angel to help me stay steady at my speed so that I can get home safely. Well, it was interesting. Immediately, the wind was reduced, the bike steadied, and it felt like a hand was on my hand, and it twisted the throttle from miles per hour from 77 to 88.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty fast. Okay, all right, here we go. I asked for this, and I didn't see a single police officer all the rest of the way home, and I got home safely. And I just collapsed when I got home because I was so exhausted. But I got home safely, and I attribute it, as you can tell, to my angels that helped get me home safely. Now, I didn't ask what their names were. I just knew that they were there to protect me and get me home.
Barbara, thank you so much for sharing that story. I love that you've brought in your angel committee whenever you're needing some help. And I think that is such a powerful technique. You know, all you've done is ask. And I've had other guests where we've talked about this power of asking, but you've just taken that to another level. It's not, well, we'll just ask for an angel to help. No, I'm going to ask for a committee to help. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because it's such a beautiful thing that we can take away from speaking with you and remembering to ask our committee that, you know, whatever the situation is, as for you with whether the bike or something else, that we can ask for an angel committee. And as you've just shared with us, you know, instantly you got that help that you needed. And I so love that. And I'm very grateful that you were able to share that story with us today. Thank you ever so much. In terms of your experiences, is there an overall message that you would like to share with everyone about what you've come to learn?
Yes, our ancestors are our primary angels. Our family members are our primary angels, and they can bring in others to help them with expertise that they may not have. There is a whole library of experts on the other side. One of my favorite movies is Always. It talks about a pilot who was inspired by, it felt like when he was learning how to fly that he had somebody helping him and guiding him from the other side. And he's in an accident and passes and follows his life coming back as an angel or a spirit to guide the next pilot in this course of experiences. And what's that like? No, it's dramatized Hollywood style movie. But the thought that those that have the expertise are there to help us that are up and coming and learning. And I've seen that with my rocks and crystals and my business and helping other people. When I personally do not know an answer, I just quickly ask, are there any angels that could help me find the answer or inspire me with a thought to know what I need to do? So whether it's immediate inspiration directly from them, from their experiences, or helping me find it in a book or a podcast or somewhere online, guiding me to the information that I'm looking for. I found that the more specific I am, the easier it is for them to help. If I just say, oh, help me with this project, they're like, what part of the project? I'm like, oh, what do I really need help with? I need help finding the information on this particular crystal, or where is this from, or what can it do? Help me find this particular bit of information. And they come, and that's when it's very quick for them to respond because I've been very specific in my request.
Oh, thank you. That's absolutely true as well, though, isn't it? It's almost like an employer-employee situation when you're taking someone through an idea and you have to give them specific instructions. Well, what do you need help with? Okay, let's be specific about this. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Barbara. You mentioned about being a crystal healer. How can people, if they feel a deep urge to want to connect with you and maybe do some work with you, how can they connect with you?
That's a great question. So before COVID, I had a full studio in my home that I would invite people into. And then I learned that I could do it remotely. So I do have access to Zoom where I'm able to do some energy work. And I found that it doesn't have to be in person. I love doing in person work, but I can also do it virtually. And I took down my Calendarly. So I should have put it back up. So right now, the best way to reach out to me would be through Facebook Messenger, Barbara Gothier on Facebook, and just messenger me there. And I also have Barbara at wiseowlcg.com that you can send me an email, and then we can set up a time to work together.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. And you said something so profound there as well. I mean, you're just giving us these wonderful little nuggets as you're talking, and it's just coming around so naturally. Thank you. It's absolutely right. You know, when you're working with angels, and if you're working even with spirit as a medium myself, you know, it is that beautiful energy that it's everywhere around us. You don't have to be in person. I mean, look at us having this conversation over the many miles. You know, you're in the US, I'm in the UK, and that's exactly the same. I think people sometimes forget that we're all ethereal beings, so we can connect on that other plane of existence. We don't have to be in the same space as each other. In some ways, you know, even being in connection with that Zoom call, you are being in the same space because we are connected. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been amazing to feel those deep connections. I feel like I'm sitting right next to you. And I know we're, half a world away, so to speak. And yet there's that heart to heart connection. There's that energy connection. There's the angel connection. And it's that frequency of vibration that's similar, that like attracts like. And there's no time or space when you're working with angels or energy. It's
Yeah.
immediate.
Yeah.
And it's always there.
I agree. It's absolutely so true. Barbara, I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your beautiful story. I do hope our listeners, there will be someone out there who totally gets this story and totally wants to reach out to you. But more importantly, the reason that I'm doing these shows is so that people can understand how important it is that we still have that connection to spirit, that we have that connection to our angelic guides. Even in this fast-paced world, it's more important than ever. And it's through these stories that I want to bring people together, and I want to bring people that healing. And thank you for being a part of that journey. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. One final thought is angels speak softly. And like you said, we're in a very, very busy world. So as you communicate with angels, you need to give them a quiet space and stillness for them to respond.
Yes, because when you ask a question, it's like communication between us. When we ask a question, you have to listen for the answer as well. And when we're speaking with the energetic world, whether that's spirit, whether that's our angels, we have to find a way of being able to hear what they're saying to us in a different kind of way. But that is a conversation for another day. Thank you so much. And to all our listeners today, I want to thank you for tuning into the podcast. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share the information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome to all the listeners to the Angelic Footprints podcast. Today I have a wonderful guest with me. Her name is Shelley Edwards Jorgensen, and she is the author of a book entitled Beautiful Ashes, a true story of murder, betrayal, and one woman's search for peace. Now, Shelley, she has had a lot of experience with angels, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that because she was just telling me some very interesting information. And Shelley, I would absolutely love you to tell us about a little bit about your background and how this book of yours came about. Please tell us.
First of all, thanks for having me. And just to launch right into this, I grew up with domestic violence. And so when I was 15, my dad, who was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde alcoholic, ended up murdering my mother and burning our house down. And and then things got worse. But along the way, with all this trauma, I've had to overcome a lot of things. And that's just the very tip of the iceberg of what I've experienced. The hand of God has been in my life the whole time. And because we're talking about angelic experiences, I'll skip all the backstory of what got me to that point. And I also talk about these experiences in the book. And so my mother was my number one champion and my safety, my security, my everything. And as you can imagine, as a teenager, and it was a very public experience because I literally was watching my house on fire on the 11 o'clock news and reading about my life in the newspaper while I was living with my father. And because he was not arrested right away, I was a sophomore in high school. And so 2 weeks after my mom's murder, which was coincidentally, it was 39 years ago yesterday. So 2 weeks later, after the funeral, I'm at my very first basketball game after, and I was a 3-sport athlete, and my mom never missed anything. And so, it was a very tough time, and we're at a opposing team's gym, so it wasn't even familiar gym, and I steal the ball, and I'm on a breakaway, and all of a sudden I hear cheering in the stands that sounds familiar. And so I look up in the stands, and as I look, I feel my mother's presence. I see her and I'm hearing her cheering for me.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, I'm 15. I don't even know that this is possible. I brick the shot. The ball's bouncing off. And then as the ball's bouncing off and I'm trying to reconcile, did this just happen to me? Again, my mother's presence washes over me. I feel her so strongly. And I hear her say, Shelley, I love you and everything will be okay.
Can I just ask, how long had she been passed at this point?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's incredible.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And so right at this time, so this is my first time back at school. So then we had moved into the house that my best friend lived in when I was growing up. She had 2 years earlier moved to a different house in our same neighborhood. And the family that bought it from them were just transferred out of country for a work assignment, actually to the UK. My dad rented the house. So now I'm living in a house that's sitting on a hill overlooking my house that's burned out shell, where I knew my mother was murdered, but I didn't want to acknowledge that yet. My dad hadn't been arrested for that yet, but I knew the moment that my mother was, I want to say, missing, that my dad killed her and did this because he had threatened to do it my whole life. And so now I'm living in this house. I'm having these reoccurring nightmares because I was the last one home. And why did I leave and that kind of thing. And so it was really hard time for me. I was really, really struggling. So I had that grace that my mom says that, but I'm just like, that couldn't have happened. So now it's the beginning of December and I'm Christmas shopping at the mall. And so I'm going past Baker Shoes, which was my mom's favorite shoe shop in the mall, and she loves shoes and handbags. I'm going past the mall opening, and I look in there, and I swore I saw my mother, and I'm like, oh. So I practically run around this planter to go inside this store. When I get in there, there's no one in there. And not even the workers. The workers were in the back, and I'm just like, oh, I hope no one saw me look like a crazy fool running around this planter to get in this store. So now I'm walking out of the store. And again, my mother's presence washes over me. And it's, Shelley, I love you and everything will be okay. Her voice, her presence. Again, I'm 15 years old and I'm thinking, I can't tell anybody this is happening. Am I losing my mind? Everything in this time period was so surreal. By this point, my dad had started sending me back to the house to get canned goods out of the basement, which was a horror show. And it was bad. And so fast forward another month and I'm laying in bed. I'm just miserable. I'm having reoccurring nightmares at this time. I can't sleep. And I'm laying on my left side with my back to the door. And I'm just miserable, wanting to die. And next thing you know, my room starts to light up. And I'm thinking, oh, Lisa, that's my sister's name. Or my dad opened the door and the light's bleeding in from the hall. Well, no, that's not what would happen. So I roll over. Next thing you know, again, my room is filled with light. And there's my mother standing there. I feel her presence. I'm seeing her. And the same message is, Shelley, I love you and everything will be okay. And then she was gone. So though, again, I'm 15 and I'm not telling anybody that this is happening because I didn't know that it was possible. So those were the first 3 experiences that I had with my mother. And she was allowed to give me that message because that is what I held on to for a very long time. And it wasn't okay, but I could trust her. And I didn't understand or actually technically believe her because of all the crap that was going on, and then that continued to go on for years. But it was, I guess I did believe her to a degree. I believed my mother's words, and that anchored me enough to survive what I had to endure. I've had so many experiences I can't even tell you, and it was my mother who wanted me to write this book.
Well, I mean, you've come out of this with your mother's love, giving you reassurance. I really hope our listeners do read the book. My question is, though, how long was it that you were living with your father before he was arrested?
Okay, so it happened October 14th, 1985 is when my mom's murder and fire was. Then he was not arrested. We were questioned the next morning at the police station. Anyway, the 11 o'clock news is announcing on Monday night, it was Monday the 14th, that there was a dead 50-year-old woman and the fire is suspicious. So they knew immediately that it was arson. But my dad was not arrested until February. And my sister, I was a sophomore in high school. My sister was a senior in high school. So we're teenagers. We're living with my father. His trial was not for another 2 years after his arrest. It wasn't until February of 1988.
So were you living with him the whole time?
Mm-hmm. I extradited myself. My sister graduated and we still were living with him right before my senior year of high school. So maybe the last 6 months I lived in California with my friend's family. I moved myself, but my sister and I had zero help from Child Protective Services or anybody of that nature.
That's quite extraordinary when you think about it. And this is such a tragic story, and that you have come through it so well, obviously with the help of your mother bringing you those lovely messages, but at the same time, you still had real life challenges to endure. With the experiences that you've had, you were telling me also that you spoke to a lovely lady from the university and that there's a bit of a theme going on with murder and the kind of scenarios and situations that other people have experienced as well. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about that, please?
Sure. I've done lots of podcasts at this point. And early on, I met a lady named Jan Canty, and she does a podcast called The Domino Effects of Murder. And she is also a homicide survivor, and she also has her PhD in psychology. So actually, the same year my mother was murdered, she was graduating with her PhD from Wayne State University, and her husband was several years older than her, and he was murdered that same year. And so Jan is a phenomenal resource because she's both a surviving victim of homicide, and she's a therapist. And so now fast forward, 39 years later, and so she, during the course of her podcast of interviewing homicide survivors, she's noticed a pattern, and even with my pattern of talking about my mom's visits, and which, I only told you 3. I can't even tell you how many experiences. So Jan noticed a pattern. And so in her second book that she wrote, it's called What Now, which is a resource for homicide and suicide survivors, which I think every single police agency in the world should be handing out, because it's kind of like a survival guide for people who have experienced that. She quoted me in that. And then she started noticing that a lot of people with homicide and suicide in their families have had angelic experiences. And so now she's working on a research project with the University of Virginia, and she's working on her 3rd book, Rekindled. And I'm not sure what the release date is, but it's all about these experiences specific to people that have survived somebody in their life being murdered or committing suicide. I believe there's 10 other people, or there's a total of 10 of us that our stories are in there. There's also some of the technical stuff about the experiences and the phenomenon that happens with people that have these experiences.
Well, as we said before, it's not the kind of thing that's an easy topic to talk about. But by the same token, it sounds like our spirit people, and whether that's our loved ones or whether that's angels, are coming in at a time when we need to really connect with them, when we really need to hear their message. If you think about the experiences that you've had, especially with your mother or any other angelic experiences, you told us about 3 of those, but thinking about some of those other experiences, would you say that they came in at a time when you especially needed that kind of reassurance?
Absolutely. And I'm gonna say this is faith precedes the miracle. So if you believe it can happen, then you have a more likely chance of it happening than if you don't believe it can happen, because you'll dismiss it. And that was another thing that, when I've had private discussions with Jan, is she realized that even in her own experience at the time, she didn't recognize the signs that she was having, that her husband was communicating with her. And so sometimes when you're having these interactions with past loved ones or angels or whatever, you're not necessarily aware or cognizant of the subtleties of some of the communications that happen. And so I would assume that most people that are listening to us on this podcast are actually aware that this is a real thing and that it happens. And I can testify to you that our loved ones that passed, they are involved in our lives. They counseled together to aid us. And, the spirit world is really not some distant place. It's right beyond the veil of what we can see. And so they're heavily involved in your life and love you. And, I know my mother has never missed a thing in my life. I didn't fully comprehend that when I was younger, but I know that now because of all the other experiences I've had with my mom.
Shelley, you've just given us such a beautiful gift. Thank you so much. Your message about faith, preceding what we believe, and we have to believe so that it can really come to fruition. That is so powerful. And I don't doubt there are some people listening to the show who may have elements of doubt, but it's when we hear through these stories, these experiences, that I really want to bring this home to people, how powerful this is. As you say, it's just beyond the veil. It is real. And there are so many people who are experiencing it. And I just want to bring that to more people. That's what I really want to do. And, you sharing your story and your experiences hopefully will bring people healing in many, many ways. Let me ask you, I know that you've had in your own way a horror story, but out of all of that, what would you say would be the message that you would like to impart to people out of this awful, awful experience? What is your takeaway? What is your message that you want to share with others?
Well, my message is, and I'm sharing my story to give others hope in their own journey through adversity, because everybody has adversity. And that's also why, like, I do book clubs. So if people read my book and they want me to zoom into their book club, I do that because then they can ask me their own personal questions of how did I overcome this or how did I overcome that? Because my goal is to help give others hope. And what I've found in adversity is a gift. You have to come to a mindset where you can see all adversity as a gift because it's an opportunity for growth. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So you can't convert anything to a positive if you don't have a negative to begin with or something to begin with. It could be neutral, but you can make that grow. So what I've learned through this though is that a lot of people, especially people that have had a lot of trauma, they don't even believe that it's possible to overcome it. And so I'm trying to be a voice to say, I've experienced this and a whole host of other things. The same year my mother was murdered, I was raped twice. I've had major health issues. I've had a lot. It's about hope. So first, it's possible to heal. Second, you're worth it. And third is learning how to trust God's plan for you and that there's a purpose in all things, regardless of whether we can fully understand it or not.
Shelley, thank you. That is such a powerful message. And, you know, when we're going through these experiences, whether it's trauma or challenges, we don't always see that. We don't see that kind of lesson or that blessing in some way. And thank you so much for sharing that and for coming out the other side to be able to give that hope to other people. Shelley, I know that we spoke about that you've got a book, but tell me a little bit about how people can get in touch with you. What is it that you would like to share for the listeners in case they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's beautifulashesmemoir.com. There's a link to contact me, which is through my email, which is beautifulashesmemoir@gmail.com. So you can connect through my website. There's connections to Amazon for my book. Basically, the book is anywhere that books are sold. And seriously, I am open. My whole mission in life is to help others. So if people want to reach out to me and ask me questions or, you know, invite me to their book club or just anything, I want to be a resource to help people. And so, yes, reach out, beautifulashesmemoir.com.
Thank you, Shelley. And for any of you listening, please do get in touch with Shelley, especially if you've had an experience that you'd like to talk about. Do you do any kind of healing or coaching at all, Shelley, or is it just a conversation that people have with you?
Yeah, it's just a conversation. I'm not officially trained in Reiki or any of those other modalities, although I've had enough experience. That's the other thing is there's not one size fits all in healing because I did regular talk therapy for 15 years and was still praying to die every day. But when I started doing, well, actually NET, which was neuro-emotional technique, that saved my life. But, you know, EMDR, I've done NET, biofeedback, done neurofeedback, I've done Reiki and cranial sacral work, and the list goes on. And all of those things are really, in my mind, the holistic side of things is a lot more powerful for emotional healing. I mean, there's a place for talking and there's a place for that, but really the modalities that saved me were not those.
And sometimes it is just about having that acknowledgement, isn't it, of someone saying, do you know what? I really understand what's going on and I'm hearing you. And we want to just have that recognition that we're not going crazy. Like that 15-year-old you, I bet, you know, if you would have had someone who you could really have trusted to say, I've seen my mother and she's come to me, wouldn't that have been wonderful? At least we're living in this kind of age where we're doing podcasts and we're having those conversations to help people to heal. So Shelley, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have any last messages at all?
Just believe in yourself and believe that there's a plan for you, and that, you know, the veil is thin and heaven is real, and spiritual beings are part of our everyday life, whether we are aware of it or not.
They absolutely are. And it never fails to amaze me how many times I get my own messages just at that time when I need them. But this show has been about you for our listeners. Thank you once again, Shelley. If you found this episode valuable, then please share the information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you really enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.